Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brian Trasher from Laws and Sausage TV with another weekly political rundown. Now, you may be wondering about the background here, or the way I'm dressed, or the fact that I haven't shaven today. I apologize in advance, but today, February 13th, 2018, is Mardi Gras Day. That means back in my hometown of New Orleans, there's a lot of chicanery and revelry going on. Everywhere else in the world, it's just Tuesday, but in New Orleans, it's Mardi Gras Day. Now, you ask, why are you at the beach? Well, it's because, you know, look, I love Mardi Gras, I love my hometown, but I'm 42 years old, and let's just say that I'm kind of over it. Like, I've seen it, I've done it, I got the t-shirt, I got several t-shirts if you want to be honest, and this is kind of a time when I like to escape and let the tourists and the die-hard Mardi Gras people have the city to themselves, and so people who are kind of meh about it now, we just stay out of the way. So I escape over here to it's either the Alabama or Florida Gulf Coast, depending on which part of this beach behind me that you're sitting or standing on or walking past. And it's very beautiful. The weather's perfect, and it's just a great day. So on to the weekly political rundown. Very interesting week in Washington, D.C. We had another looming shutdown of the government, because if you remember last time we talked about it, the deal that the Congress passed only lasted for a few weeks. Well, the deal was impending again, and on Monday we had the Democrats and Republicans announce that they had reached a deal. And they said, look, we came up with a spending deal. It's going to protect the military for the next 2 years, which is a great thing, because the military kind of ends up being like the biggest loser in shutdowns, because it puts a lot of question marks in operations, and soldiers don't get paid on. It's just a bad deal, right? So this protects the military for 2 years, and it funds all the operations of the government for a while longer. And so we live to fight another day. Now, what does it also do? It also increases the amount of spending by several $100 billion, which of course adds to the deficit, it adds to the national debt. And so fiscal conservatives like Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky decided, hey, this is not a good deal, right? And so he decided he was going to filibuster on the Senate side and until the government ran out of money at midnight on the, I think it was the 8th, and he kept the filibuster going until about 1 a.m. So technically there was another government shutdown. But the reason why you probably didn't hear about it is because at about 1 a.m. Washington time, the Senate was able to pass their version of the deal. The House concurred, and by Tuesday morning, the deal was on the president's desk, and he signed it. So it was kind of a show of force, I guess you could say, by Senator Rand Paul. And look, I get it. A lot of conservatives didn't like the fact that there was an increase in spending. Now, one of the things you have to realize is, let's talk about an increase in spending, or an increase in the deficit, because that's what a lot of people talk about. You know, conservatives usually don't like increases in the deficit or the national debt. And when that happens while they're in charge, they kind of get beat up about it. Well, you might hear about the CBO. It stands for the Congressional Budget Office. This is a kind of a bipartisan bureaucracy that kind of plugs in the numbers into a spreadsheet and decides whether a bill or proposal is going to, increase the debt, increase the deficit, decrease it, whatever. It's supposed to be bipartisan, but it's not. Look, I mean, it's a bureaucracy. And let me tell you something about federal employees. I don't care whether if you're a federal employee, if you're a registered Republican or registered Democrat, you're going to do what's best for you, right? You're going to do what's in your best interest. And most of the time, those people are just counting down the clock till retirement day. I'm not trying to impugn all federal employees, but that's just the way it is. The Congressional Budget Office, 9.5 times out of 10, when a proposal comes up, they put it into their spreadsheet, and they do what's called a static score. A static score is just without any other factors involved. And it basically just says, okay, if there's, with the tax cut bill that got passed right before the new year, there's going to be less money coming in. So, of course, deficit's going to go up, the national debt's going to go up, because we've got to borrow more money to pay for the ongoing budget operations of the government. But that's in a static score. There's another kind of score called a dynamic score. And in the dynamic score situation, they take into account that, hey, this tax cut that passed, there's a lot of companies out there that are pumping more money into the economy by way of employee bonuses. They're investing in more infrastructure. They might be moving a factory or a work center from overseas back into the United States. And that money gets pumped back into our economy. So instead of having more taxes coming from the same pot of people, we have less taxes coming from a broader tax base. And in a dynamic score, it captures that. But a dynamic score takes a lot more time and a lot more work goes into it. So they generally don't do it. And that's why you see people say, oh, the bipartisan CBO said this is going to raise the national debt. It's going to raise the deficit. Well, I just told you why that's not always the case. There's always another side of the story in Washington, D.C. Now, another thing that went on, more drama about this FISA memo that got dropped last week by the House Intelligence Committee about this now discredited dossier about then candidate Donald Trump. Now, the Republicans on the committee released their memo. It was approved by the president. It went out there. It had some very disturbing stuff in there about how the FBI handled the Hillary Clinton email investigation, about how they handled the supposed investigation into Russian influence into our national elections. Now, the Democrats on the committee, led by Ranking Member Adam Schiff, went ahead and put their own memo out there, and they put information into the memo that included sources and methods that are classified and probably should never be released to the public. And the story that the White House and the congressional Republicans are given is that they did it on purpose, so because they knew that the White House would have to redact information, and then the Democrats would be able to claim that the White House is not being transparent or not being fair because they released the Republican memo and not the Democrat memo. Now, what the president did was a little bit clever, if you ask me, because instead of just rejecting it and saying, look, we can't release sources and methods when it comes to intelligence, he sent it back to the committee and said, you guys know full well that we can't put this out there, so you go ahead and fix it and edit it and give it back to us in a form and fashion that we will be able to release it to the public. So now it's going to be up to the committee to make a deal and put it back out there. Now, with regards to the fact that there was information in there that couldn't be released, hey, look, it is what it is. I mean, if there's information that can't go out there, can put people in harm's way in our intelligence community and our military, then you don't want it out there, right? But it didn't stop the Democrats on the committee from claiming foul and saying that the White House is trying to hold back information. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Just today, the Senate held a committee hearing on threats to the United States, and it was a little bit interesting, or I should say cautionary, to hear some of these experts saying that we're still in a lot of danger. Cyber attacks, actual physical attacks on our homeland. These are all things that can happen, and we should be vigilant about it. So that kind of wraps up the most headlines of what happened this week. Once again, I apologize for being so casual today, but again, I told you it was Mardi Gras Day. And don't think I'm not, participating and having some fun on my own. I am having a rum drink here while I'm talking to you. So trust me, I'll always take care of myself. It's not a big deal. But I'd love to hear your comments. Go to lawsandsausage.tv. Tell us what you think, whether you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. Put some comments below. Tell me if you disagree with me, or tell me if you think you have another take on some of the events that happened this week. Either way, I want to hear from you, and I appreciate you watching. This is Brian Trasher from Laws and Sausages TV, signing off from the beach, either in Florida or Alabama, depending on where you're standing. Have a great day, everybody.